Hi everybody, welcome to the channel. This is Rob. You guys, I can't believe it, but it's June already. I remember when it was November, you guys. The year has gone so fast. We're already halfway through it. And in this video, you guys, I'm going to share with you the list of those decks that I've gotten this year, starting in January, and that I've been able to work with for the last 6 months. I'm going to show you a list of the 10 decks that I've been working with from number 10 all the way to number 1, from my least favorite all the way to my favorite. And stick all the way to the end, you guys, because you won't believe which one number 1 is. The first deck that I want to show you on this list, you guys, and this is deck number 10. It's Tarot of the Spirit by Pamela and Joyce Akins. And this is a US Game Systems tarot deck, you guys. It's turned out to be one of my least favorite decks. I'm happy that it's in my collection. I've used it a couple of times, but you know, if you want to see the full video of this deck, go back into the channel and take a look at it. One of the reasons why this deck and I haven't been able to connect so well is because of the drawings. I just simply don't relate to the drawings. Everything else is pretty good on this deck. Let me show you around. So it comes in a talk box like this, and this is the side of the box. This is the back of the box, you guys. This is the booklet that comes with the deck, you guys, and it is pretty run-of-the-mill. I think it gives you a Tarot of the Spirit introduction here, and then it goes right into the major and minor arcana, and that's really the end of that. It has a couple of spreads, as you can see, or maybe just one spread. No, a couple of spreads, and that's really what the book is. If you're familiar with US Game Systems, if you're familiar with the Talk Boxes editions, you'll probably be familiar with this booklet, so it's really nothing to brag about. It is what it is. And this is the deck, you guys. This is the back of the cards, and they are... No, they're not reversible, actually, because here it's different. So the drawings were something that I never was able to relate to. So when it comes to cardstock, you guys, this is very run-of-the-mill US Game Systems cardstock. If you have any US Game Systems cards or decks, you will probably already know what this cardstock feels like and looks like. This is, as I said, the back of the card, and they are not reversible, and they are also matte. So they're not really shiny, or but they're also not totally matte. They're sort of in the middle, I would say. And this is what one of the cards looks like, you guys. When it comes to shuffling this deck, it's not gilded, as you can see. When it comes to shuffling this deck, it shuffles really well. And this is one of the wonderful things about US Game Systems decks, that they shuffle really, really well. And this is the case with this deck as well. If you want to do a spread with this deck, it spreads really, really well. And it comes with this, you can say, useful card. And what you do with this card is you put it on top of the cards. This is if you are interested in Kabbalah, if you're interested in that sort of system, then this is a perfect deck for you. And it brings this extra card to help you with that. And you guys, once again, when it comes to the drawings, I wasn't really able to connect very well with them. Now, am I happy that this deck is in my collection? Absolutely, I'm happy that this deck is in my collection. I really like it. I think that for meditation, I think that for exploration, this has been a great tool for me. I'm very clear with my reviews, and this is a system that I don't still quite understand. The whole tree of life, and it's something that I'm still trying to get my hands into. I haven't really been able or had the time to do all the research about it. And I think that's one of the reasons why this deck hasn't really been used by me, because I don't really understand it that well. And it's a deck that I'm going to have to spend a little bit more time with whenever I find the interest to do so. I'm glad it's here. I'm glad that I have it. I find the artwork really, really nice. The printing is also pretty nice on this deck, but there's just something about it that doesn't allow me to connect. And I think it has to do with all the symbolism, and it's a complete variation of the RWS. It's different, so I haven't really had the time to study it or really go into it. But this is the Tarot of the Spirit, you guys. This is deck number 10 on my list today, and I can't wait to show you the other 9 decks on the list. So let's do it, and let me show you what deck number 9 is. Deck number 9, you guys, The Wanderer's Tarot by Pierluca Sisi and Michel Di Aloisio. You guys, whenever I see a deck by Lo Scarabeo that has this presentation, I probably will go for it. There's several things that I like about this deck. The presentation is one of them. It's always nice. I love this sort of drawer box where it just opens up like this. By the way, this is the front of the box. This is the side of the box. This is the back of the box. The Wanderer's Tarot, you guys. And like I said, this is what the inside of the box looks like. This is the book that comes with the deck, you guys. It's a pretty nice book. I mean, it has that rose petal sort of texture to it. And if you know Lo Scarabeo, you'll know that these books come in 4 or 5 different languages. So at the end of the day, it's really not that informative. It goes into the major, minor arcana. You're lucky if you get a couple of spreads, but they break into different languages. So this one is English, Italian, Spanish, and Portuguese. So by the time you're done reading the language that you want to read, you'll find that it's only a quarter of the book. So very run of the mill. That's what those books are all about. And these are the cards, you guys. So this is the back of the card. And as you can see, they are reversible, so that's wonderful, right? You can already see that this is a shiny cardstock, and that's not a problem, the cardstock being shiny. The problem that I have when a cardstock is really shiny, when the cardstock is so thin. This cardstock is not that thin. This cardstock is pretty good quality. It's pretty robust. And so if you're familiar with these decks from Lo Scarabeo, you'll know that this cardstock is pretty robust, pretty good, pretty lush. So I'm okay with the fact that it has that shine. I'm going to tell you what the issue was with this deck and why it is number 9 and it's not on the top 5. When it comes to shuffling this deck, it shuffles just fine, you guys. I don't have a problem with it. The size of it is normal size, so I won't even pull another card to sort of compare it because it is the same thing. This is how it shuffles, and it shuffles really well. When you want to do a spread, it also spreads really, really well. So presentation is really good. Cardstock is good. The fact that the cards are shiny is also good. The size of the cards is also good. As I said, the presentation of the deck is really, really nice. And when it comes to the pictures on this deck, I just wasn't really able to relate to a lot of these pictures, you guys. So it doesn't look, it's not a deck that is very pleasing for me to look at. It's a little bit rough. It's a little bit out of the ordinary, and out of the ordinary is okay, but I don't know, it's like in between real and fake. I don't know. I wasn't really able to connect to the picture so well. This is the Queen of Wands. Therefore, I haven't really been using this deck so much. I've used it a couple of times for divination, but I haven't really used it that often, I should say. This is Knight of Wands. This is the Page of Wands. And there's something about the pictures that look really, really cold and sort of plasticky looking, and I don't know what it is. This is the 10 of Wands. The colors are also not to my liking. This is the 9 of Wands, and it just doesn't really cut it for me. So I wasn't able to really work as much with it as I wanted to, but it's okay. Am I glad that it's in my collection? Yeah, I'm okay that it's in my collection. But if it wasn't in my collection, it would also be okay. It's just the colors, it's just the drawings. I never really was able to relate to it. 6 of Wands. And this is just one of those decks that I'm indifferent about this deck, you guys. If I have it, this is okay. If I didn't have it, this is also okay. So I will keep trying to work with it and see if along the way we connect a bit more. But it's been sort of a here and there sort of a deck, not really here, not really there. So you guys, that is the Wanderer's Tarot. Let me show you what the next deck on the list is. Deck number 8, Mythic Tarot. You guys, I was so excited about this deck, and I don't know, it's I haven't really it hasn't called me. And if any of you have watched my other videos, or maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but the thing with tarot decks is, for me, guys, that they have to call me. There is, every time I open a new deck, or every time I get a new deck and I open it and I get those fresh, brand new impressions from a deck, it really makes a connection, or it doesn't make a connection right away. And I'm finding out that those decks that actually make an immediate that make an immediate connection are those decks that keep calling me back and back and back. And so this was one of those decks that didn't reject me, but this was actually not one of those decks that it calls me. So I see it on the shelf and I don't really reach out to it so much. Does it bother me that it's in my collection? No, it really doesn't bother me. It's okay. But this is the box, you guys. This is the front of the box. It's the Mythic Tarot, as I said, and it breaks into two, as you can see. That's the inside of the box. This is the back of the box. If you're interested in reading that, pause your device. This is the booklet that it comes inside of the box, and it's really very run-of-the-mill, you guys. It really doesn't have anything. It has a one spread or two spreads there. There's no introduction to this deck whatsoever. There's very little information about anything. And this one is by View Monde. And that's what that book is all about, you guys. These are the cards. And one of the things that I've noticed about View Monde is that their cardstock is all the same. So it doesn't matter which deck you order, because I have like 3 or 4 decks from them. Their cardstock is always the same. So that's something really important to know. If cardstock is really important to you, like it is for me, then that is good, because then you know what sort of cardstock you have. If you have one of their decks, then you know what sort of cardstock you're going to confront when you get the deck. So far, all of my decks from this particular publishing company have had the same cardstock. And you guys, this is the back of the card. They are reversible. Once again, talking about that cardstock, it's pretty good. It's not bad. I really don't mind the cardstock. If you want to shuffle this deck, it shuffles well. It doesn't shuffle perfectly, actually. I was going to say really well, but it doesn't. It's okay. It shuffles okay, you guys. If you want to do a spread with this deck, it spreads really, really nicely. So quality is good on this deck. The box is really great as well. Cardstock is okay. It's not the best cardstock, but it's not the worst. And so it doesn't bother me that much. I think that one of the things, or the main thing with this deck and is the drawings and the frames and the colors. I didn't really quite get into it. And so I'm trying to still bond with this deck. This is the 6 of Wands. There is so much to look at. Some of the images are really wonderful, like this image, it's the 5 of Wands, the Chimera, are really, really cool. I enjoy them and I enjoy seeing them and everything, but it's just one of those decks that doesn't really call out to me. So, but am I glad that this deck is in my collection? Yeah, I'm glad that this deck is in my collection. I don't really mind it. I find that some of the drawings are really, really cool. Not some, a lot of them actually. They're very thought-provoking. And I find them interesting, you guys. Look at this Wheel of Fortune. I really like it. And so one of the things that I really do not like about this deck is I wish they didn't have this frame here. And not because I'm against frames and not because I think borderless is better. I do like borderless, by the way. This sort of colors that they have here on the background and this drawing or this design that they have here, it confuses everything and it doesn't make it any easier to take a look at these drawings. And so when I'm looking at these cards and when I'm looking at these drawings, I get always confused. It's like it's not clear enough. This sort of here makes me lose focus of what I'm seeing. The picture doesn't really jump out at me. And so it makes my readings a little bit hard because not only is there a lot to look at, which is okay, but this frame here just confuses everything. I think if the frame would have been in a solid color or something like, you know, like a solid red or maybe a white or a black or whatever, it would have then made the picture come out a lot better. But this frame sort of makes everything really murky and it doesn't allow the picture to really speak to me, and that has been a little bit of a problem really with this deck. And so it's almost like I look at it and I feel like I'm just looking at a dirty card, a card that got splashed with tomato sauce or something like this, if that makes sense to you. It's almost like it's stained. And so the drawings are so cool. I wish they would have just made them clear. And I wish they would have made it either a borderless, or if they really insisted that they wanted to have a frame, then a frame would have been more appropriate in a solid color, as I just mentioned. But I think borderless would have been perfect for this deck. really, because there's so much to look at. I don't really even think you need a frame. But anyway, you guys, it's like a lot of information that I just gave, but I just told you exactly how I feel about this deck. And so I don't really reach out to it. I don't really work with it that much. It just sort of, you know, sits there. But am I glad it's in my collection? Yeah, I'm glad. Look at this picture. I think it's really, really cool. It's super chatty. This is the devil, right? I mean, you have a lot to talk about. Temperance. And so this is death. It's a cool deck at the end of the day, and I'm glad that it's in my collection. But you know, do I work with it? Not really. Not yet, at least, you guys. And so I'm going to give this a little bit more time, and I'm going to try to connect with this deck a bit more. So with that being said, let me show you the next deck, you guys. Deck number 7, you guys, the Circle of Doors Tarot. And you guys, this is a beautiful deck. It has a really nice presentation. That's the front. This is the side of the box. This is the back of the box, you guys. And I think it's pretty interesting. So if you want to pause your device and read that, take a look. This is the other side of the box. You guys, this is a very specific deck, by the way, and this is one of the reasons why I didn't make it into the top 5, because it's a very specific deck, and so therefore I feel that this is a deck that I'm not invited to use that much or on a regular basis, because I feel that it's sort of I feel like it's not very inclusive, if I may say that. I feel that I'm not in this circle. It's called the Circle of Doors Tarot, and I really feel that I'm outside of the circle. And so I think this is the kind of deck that you must feel inside of the circle to use. And I'm going to explain to you guys what I mean when I say all of that. This box opens like this. It has magnets here on the side. This is what the inside looks like, you guys. And it is really a beautiful presentation. I really give them an A+ for presentation. This is the book that it comes with. It's a beautiful, gorgeous little book. It has that rose petal feeling. It is thick. It's very informative. It's almost 200 pages, and this is how it reads. So take a look at that, or pause your device and take a look at that. It gives you a picture of the card, and then it gives you the meanings, and it describes the card for you. So that's another one there, the 7 of Cups. And with this one, I think it's really important that you sort of get an idea of how this book reads, because it really tells you a lot about the deck. So pause your device and read that if you like. This is the introduction. I think it's also important. Pause your device and read that. So it's important because it is one of those decks that either you feel like you belong with it, or this deck belongs to you, or you don't. At least that's what my experience has been. Of course, it is different for everybody, right? But that's the sort of feeling that I've gotten with this deck. And so that's the book, you guys. Here are the cards, and they're gorgeous in every single way. This is what the inside of the box looks like, and they really put a lot of thought into this. I really have to give them credit for presentation and for materials. These are gorgeous. So I'm so happy that I have this deck actually in my collection, although I don't use this deck very, very often. Actually, I rarely use this deck, you guys, and because of what I just mentioned, because of all of those things. But look at these cards, you guys. These are gorgeous, and they are rather on the larger side, you guys. Look, this is how much bigger they are than your regular borderless. And with that, I wanted to really do a comparison, because these are unusual sizes. When it comes to the cardstock, is really nice cardstock. Is a bit on the thin side for me, but the texture of this cardstock is so beautiful that it really makes up for the thinness of the paper. The printing on this deck is also really gorgeous. It's got that gold foil on it. It's really, really well done. I just couldn't really quite connect with the pictures. I just feel like I'm out of the circle yet. I'm hoping that I will be able to use this deck in the future. I don't know. We'll have to see. So I need to work a bit more with this deck to see if we're going to be able to finally connect or not, because right now we're working on it. This is the side of the deck. Look how beautiful that gilding looks, you guys. Beautiful gold gilding, and gold is everywhere. This is the back of the card, and it is gorgeous, you guys. So it is maybe reversible, but maybe not, because the objects here are different than the objects here in this one too. So I think you will be able to notice that this is upside down. And when it comes to shuffling this deck, because they are a bit larger than your regular deck, you might have a little bit of a challenge shuffling these cards. But I think at the end of the day, you'll be able to get them. Whether you want to shuffle them like this or you shuffle your own way, as many of you know, guys, I try to be as gentle as I can when it comes to shuffling my cards, because these are collector's items for me and I want to keep them looking as best as possible. Don't get me wrong, there's some decks in my collection that look like they've gone through the ringer. But those are the decks that I really go to a lot. And so other decks I don't use that much. Like, for example, this one, I barely used it. But once again, you guys, I'm really happy that this deck is in my collection because I really can appreciate everything else. Material, once again, the material, the presentation, the feel of the deck is beautiful. And so it's a really nice looking deck. I just don't feel like I connect with the whole theme of the deck, which is, if you ask me, a feminine deck, which is okay. I'm okay. Although I'm a male, I can actually sort of get over that female part of it, or I can get over the witch part of it or the cult part of it, because all those words that I just used are very appropriate for this deck. And I could look beyond those things and really just let my intuition carry me through the pictures. But I haven't been able to get there, you guys. For some reason, whenever I look at this deck, it really just takes me to where it wants to take me and hasn't allowed me to move freely. So if that makes any sense, okay. If that doesn't make sense, I understand. But if my point is that it just seems to be very focused on a group, and I feel like I'm not part of that group. Simple as that. And so, but nevertheless, beautiful deck. Am I happy that this deck is in my collection? You bet I am happy that this deck is in my collection. This is a beautiful deck. The pictures, some of them are gorgeous. Look at this. And they're not very colorful, so they're mostly black and white, and they're just gorgeous. So there's a lot to look at there. This is strength. There's a lot to see, and there's a lot of symbolism. And I think that this is one of those decks that, you know, if you are looking for something different, or if you are into feminism, if you are into occult, this is the deck that maybe you want to look into, you guys. And so if you're interested in getting this deck, let me know, and I will definitely send you the link to where you can get this deck. You guys, that is the Circle of Doors Tarot. And by the way, this deck is created by Anne Stavley and Jill Sutherland. And the guidebook is written by Brian Duffy, you guys. You guys, once again, the Circle of Doors Tarot. Let me show you what the next deck on this list is. Deck number 6, you guys. This is the Dream Song Oracle. It's not a tarot deck. It is an oracle deck, but it is a deck that I've gotten in the last 4 months. Been sort of, once again, it's good, but it's not that good. It's sort of there in the middle somewhere. I'm going to tell you exactly what my experience has been with this deck, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel about this deck. There is a full review of this deck on the channel, you guys, so if you want to take a look at that, go ahead and do that. But this one is by US Game Systems. As you can see, this is a gorgeous box, you guys. If you are into flowers, if you're into really beautiful artwork, this is a deck that you may want to consider, and this is exactly why I got this deck. This one is written by Angie Sulins, and the artwork is by Marta Orlovska. Once again, back of the deck, back of the box, and this box opens up like this. This is what the inside of the box says or reads. Take a look or pause your device if you're interested in that. It comes with this little bag to put your cards. It's pretty standard. This is the book that it comes inside of the box, and it is a pretty beautiful book. It's got that rose petal feeling here for the cover, and it is a pretty robust book. It has almost 100 pages, and it gives you a full picture of the card, and then it gives you the meaning of the card here. Go ahead and pause your device if you're interested to read how that actually reads. Here, I'll stop at another one for you. This is Seek the Ally, number 8. And beautiful book. This is what the inside of the box looks like. Very pretty, you guys. The artwork on this deck is really gorgeous. At least it is to me. It really attracted me. These are the cards, by the way. There is 45 cards to this deck. So holding this cards, it's really not a big deal, as you can see. They shuffle pretty well. This is US Game Systems, so this cardstock you'll probably know from some of your other decks, or if you have any US Game System decks, this is that cardstock that they use on a lot of their decks. It's really nothing special. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. It's very run-of-the-mill. And so it is a US Game Systems. It is a mass-produced deck, and therefore don't expect the quality to be super, super duper. Though, however, and I've always said this about US Game Systems, for the decks that they produce, for the amount of production that they have, they really give a very good price. So it may not feel like an indie deck or like a $150 deck, but it does feel pretty good for the price that they sell them to. It is, however, with faults here and there. So this is the back of the card, you guys, and they are reversible. However, I don't know that the fact that they're reversible really matters for this deck. They are gilded, so it's a beautiful gold gilding. Shuffling is not a problem. If you want to do a spread, as you can see, it spreads absolutely gorgeous. And so, you guys, the thing that attracted me to this deck was really the drawings. The drawings are beautiful. So this one is number 32, Indulge the Whimsy. These drawings I'm very attracted to. Very, very much. So the style of the artwork is really what attracted me to this deck. 21 Grow Wild. I like everything. I like the colors. I like the style of artwork. I like the motif. It looks like it is oil on canvas. Whether it really is or not, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. But that's what it looks like to me. It looks sort of like a collage as well. And it's a combination of modern and old. I would say that it's more on the British side. So I would have to do more research, but those are just the things that come off the top of my head whenever I look at these cards. The writing on the book is also a little bit poetic, if that's the right word to use for it. It doesn't really give you a meaning. It gives you more of something to think about, food for thought. It's what the book or how the book reads. Another thing that I'm a little bit disappointed about this deck is that the printing is not that good. For some reason, it doesn't look like it's sharp enough. It looks like the colors are a little bit faded. I'm sure that if I was looking at the originals for this deck, they would look completely different. I love this Let It Burn. Do you see this image here? It's a fox with a woman's head. She, or the fox, has a basket on top of her head, and she is about to throw that moon into the fire, if you ask me. This is what I believe. And so it's called Let It Burn. And I think she's, for some reason, out of all of the cards, this is one of the ones that really, really caught my attention. Seek the Ally, Court the Feminine. This is really a beautiful card. Like I said, and this is the one that they used for the cover of the box. Really pretty drawings, and I think it looks better on camera than it actually looks on Unreal or here when I'm looking at it. I saw the video that I last did from this deck, which is the full review of it, and it looked so much better on camera. So in real life, it looks, you can see that it's a bit faded. You can see that the colors are not that strong, and I really think that this deck deserved a little bit better printing. But that's just all my opinions, you guys. Am I glad that this deck is in my collection? Yes, I'm glad that this deck is in my collection. I find it beautiful. I think that shuffling is really great. The presentation of this deck is really, really good as well. Like I said, I didn't pay a lot of money for this, and I like the fact that it's borderless. I like the fact that it's gilded. There's many things that I like about this deck. Many, many things. I haven't really been able to use it that much because it is sort of new and I haven't really had the time. You guys, I'm getting to the point where I have so many decks, and there's just some decks that I truly love, you guys, that I just can't get my hands off. Now, this deck is one of those decks that still interests me more than not. So am I indifferent about this deck? No, I'm not. I'm very intrigued still by this deck. So I'm going to use it. I'm going to put it out and I'm going to try to use this deck because it still intrigues me. It still calls me. It's one of those decks that I'm going to take out more, and it's one of those decks that I'm really going to put focus on. And with that being said, you guys, we are now going to cover the 5 best decks that I got in the last 5-6 months of this year to show you. So it's always exciting when we get to the 5 decks, you guys. And as I said at the beginning, stick to the end of the video because you are not going to believe which one I chose to be my number 1, because I don't even believe it that much. But okay, you guys, let's go to the next deck. Deck number 5, Monika Bodirski, The Awakening Tarot, an elemental approach. And this is a really interesting deck. It's one of those decks that I have to say are unique. I don't have a lot of decks that are like that. I don't even actually have any decks that are like this. I think that for uniqueness, this is one of those decks that I give a 10-star or a 5-star, whatever top number is for you, because it just is unique. This is what the side of the box looks like. Please pause your device and read that. This is what the back of the box looks like. And you guys, I didn't have a total connection with this deck as soon as I got it. This took a bit of time for us to connect. We have been able to connect. This is what the inside of the box looks like, and it's a pretty big box, you guys. So that's why you see that it doesn't really fit entirely on the video or on the camera. It's commonly assumed that tarot is exclusively a divinatory tool and that this was its original purpose. However, this is not the case. Judica Illes. This is the book, you guys. It is a thick book. Look at this. Very thick. Not only do you get a deck, but you also get literature with this deck. And I always find that to be such a plus. I paid pretty good money for this deck. It's not super, super expensive, but it's not super cheap. But honestly, you guys, for everything that you get, it's a super price. I don't think I paid more than 35 bucks for it. Really. I don't think I paid any more than that. Now, going back to this book, this is Monika. So you can pause your device and read that if you like. This book is thick, you guys. This book is over 260 pages. So it's very informative. And this is not your typical Rider-Waite. This is not your typical tarot. This has more of a psychological side to it. So you'll see that the pictures are unusual. You'll see that the pictures are unique. And you'll see that they are thought-provoking. And a lot of the times you will not be able to sort of put the picture together with the meaning of the RWS. So it deviates from the RWS a bit. It has its own language, but nevertheless, a really cool deck. I have been enjoying this deck. I don't use it that much, but I have used it, and whenever I use it, I enjoy it. Now, the deck comes inside of this box, and it comes inside of a talk box. Now, I've said this before. I won't be redundant, but I don't want to be redundant. But, you know, having a talk box inside of the box is, if you are like me and you keep your decks on your or in your original boxes, then this can be kind of inconvenient, right? If you don't want to keep that big box and you want to keep it on the smaller box, then this is really great because you can just get rid of that box and then you just keep the book with the talk box, right? But for me, that doesn't make any sense, honestly. I just keep them both and everything, all 3 items, I keep them inside the box because then that everything is together. When I take this out and then I take this out, then they're separated, and it can be that the book gets placed in a different part of the shelf and then to find the book. So I just keep it all together. It's a lot easier for me. I know that if I need something, I know that it's all inside the box. So so you guys, this is the back of the card, and they are pretty cool. The artwork on this deck is really, really cool. They are reversible. This cardstock is very run-of-the-mill. So for the price that I paid, I didn't really expect the cardstock to be super duper or to my super liking or something. But it is okay. It doesn't really bother me. It's just plain cardboard sort of cardstock. It's not shiny. It's not matte either. It's sort of in between. But for everything else that you get, you guys, you get the book and then you get this huge box with it, and you get the other talk box. And so it's a lot of material, right? All of that stuff costs money. So, but still they managed to do pretty good cardstock. And I love the simplicity of these cards. When it comes to shuffling this deck, you guys, you won't have any problems. The size is regular size. They're a little bit thinner than your regular, as you just saw. And if you want to shuffle this deck, you won't have any problems. It shuffles okay. They're very much on the lighter side. So if you have problems with your hands, or if you don't like to lift heavy cards, this one is not going to create a problem for you. These are light. I would say a little bit too much on the lighter side, because they're sort of not, they're lacking a little bit of weight, if you ask me. But if you do a spread, they spread beautiful, as you can see. And if you look at the artwork on this deck, it is just beautiful. This is the Artist of Air, and they've changed some of the names of the cards, you guys. Artist of Fire. This is the Three of Water, normally known as the Three of Cups. The Five of Water, or the Five of Cups. This is Contemplation, which is the Hermit. And so you look at these pictures and you look at these drawings. So artistic, they're gorgeous. I find this art style really beautiful. So it's simplistic. I love the fact that the cards are white, and so it really just shows you the image. They have placed a border here, which maybe it was unnecessary. Maybe it would have been totally gorgeous to have them borderless, but they chose to put a frame around it. And these pictures can be thought-provoking or maybe not. So I've done a couple of readings with these cards, and some of the seekers liked them, and some of the other seekers said, nah, you know what? I don't really see the meaning. I don't really relate to the pictures. They couldn't really think of anything. For example, this is the Four of Water. That's the Four of Cups, right? I mean, if I look at that, I think it's so deep, because there he or she is yawning and acting like, I'm bored, I'm not interested, where are my things, or where's my next opportunity, is right on top of his or her head, and she is not paying attention to it. He or she already has these things in his or her life, but it chooses not to look at it. It's right on top of her head. So it's ironic. This is the Voyager of Fire, which is the Page. This is the Visionary of Air. This is the Five of Fire, or Five of Wands. And so as you can see, this card usually means fighting, right? There's all that fire coming out of his head. And it's, he's on fire. He or she or it is on fire. And it feels like it wants to fight. It's pissed. Voyager of Earth, Three of Earth. So this is a really interesting deck, you guys, and it's not your typical RWS. It's a very interesting deck. I've been enjoying this deck really a lot, and so I'm hoping that I'm going to do a lot more readings with this deck. I've already connected with this deck. I'm glad that this deck is in my collection, and I can't wait to keep working with it and seeing where we're going to go together. So you guys, with that being said, let me show you the next deck. Deck number 4, you guys, MJ Kulinani, the Guardian of the Night Tarot. This is 78 cards, you guys. It's by Hay House, and this is one of the many Hay House decks I've gotten lately, you guys. And so you'll see them on a couple of my lists, because I ordered a couple of Hay Houses in the past, and I couldn't connect with them. And then lately I've seen a couple of other Hay Houses, such as this one. And I thought, let me give that a try. And I'm glad that I've given them a try. This is what the back of the box looks like. This is an animal deck, you guys. And so I was hesitant about getting a tarot deck with animals, you guys, or an animal-based tarot deck, because I have a couple of them, and not all of them have been really to my liking. So this one says inside of the box, without darkness, there is no light. And this is the back of the box, you guys. Pause your device and read that if you like. This is what the inside of the box looks like. This is the book that comes inside the box, you guys. And this is a really nice little booklet. Really, it's thick enough. It's got over 130 pages. It's got that rose petal feeling to it. Here's a little bit about MJ Kulinan, and you can pause your device and read that. The book goes into the major and minor arcana. It gives you a couple of spreads. It gives you a little bit of an introduction, how to prepare your deck, and that's pretty much it, you guys. Pretty nice books, I must confess. Happy with them. And these are the cards, you guys. Cardstock. Cardstock is really good. It's got that rose petal feeling, but it's not overwhelming. It still allows the cards to slide pretty well. And so when it comes to cardstock, I'm super pleased with it. This is the back of the card, and it's got bees all over it. They are reversible. It's got the big moon on them. Really, really great cardstock. If you can hear that, it just makes that wonderful sound. And when it comes to shuffling this deck, it is a bit on the thicker side. And by the way, this is Hay House sort of size, you guys. It is more of it's more like an oracle size is what I would call it, because it's rare to see a tarot deck on this size. But anyway, it is bigger than your regular borderless. It's not gilded. When holding this deck, it is a robust cardstock. So what does that mean? It means that it's thick. So if you have short fingers like I do, maybe that's going to be a problem. I don't find it to be a problem for me. They are a little bit on the heavier side, but still, I find it okay to shuffle this deck, you guys. And if you want to do a spread with it, it doesn't spread completely perfect like other decks would, but still it spreads pretty well. But the most wonderful thing about this deck and the most surprising thing about this deck is the artwork and the meanings of the cards, you guys. This is the Hierophant and the pictures. For an animal deck, which is hard for me to connect with an animal deck, as I said at the beginning, but I haven't had a problem connecting with this deck. Also, the fact that the cardstock is really to my liking. This deck calls me, actually. So I pull this deck out a lot because I like the pictures. I can relate to them. I like the colors. I like the printing. I like the cardstock. It's a really great deck, you guys. Am I glad that this deck is in my collection? Absolutely, I'm glad that this deck is in my collection. I love having this deck, Ace of Pentacles. And this deck was one of those huge surprises. I had no idea that I was going to be getting a deck that I was going to like so much. This is the Five of Swords, but I did. And so this has just been one of those huge surprises that I'm just totally in love with. I'm loving this deck, you guys. So that is the Guardian of the Night Tarot. Big surprise for me, but very pleasantly surprised. I have been using this deck and I will keep using this deck. Sometimes I will pull it out as a clarifier. Because I feel that the whole animal theme for a complete reading can be a bit overwhelming for me. But I have been known to make complete readings with animal decks. So, you guys, let me show you the last 3 decks on this list. Deck number 3, you guys, MJ Kulinani, the Enchanted Foresta Tarot. This deck is by Hay House, and remember, you guys, we're doing a list of the decks that I've gotten in the last 6 months. It's June now, it's the middle of the year, and these are the newer decks in my collection over the last 6 months, and I have been getting a couple, or more than a couple actually, of Hay House decks this year, and I'm very happy with them so far. I've gotten a couple of other Hay House decks in the past, and I was not able to connect with those decks, but that's not the case this year, you guys. I'm totally connecting to their decks. This one is really, really cool. This is the book that comes with it, you guys. It is just like the other one that I just showed you. It comes with the meaning of the cards. It comes with a couple of spreads and a brief introduction, and that's pretty much all that there is. This is the back of the book, and pause your device and read that if you're interested, or if you've been thinking about getting this deck, read that. By the way, you guys, I did a full review of this deck on the channel, so if you're interested in taking a look at this deck in full, then go back to the channel and look for it. This is what the inside of the box looks like. This is what the other side of the box looks like. A wild and magical realm hidden deep in the forest, where shadows mingle with sunlight, fairies flutter, and mermaids swim. And it really is a magical world that this deck takes you into, you guys. When it comes to artwork, let's get to artwork in a little bit. Let me show you what the back of this deck looks like. Everything is really nice about this deck, you guys. From artwork, presentation, the box is really great. The box has got that rose petal feeling. As you saw, it breaks into two. It's hardcover, so it's really nice. The size of the card is that Hay House size. It is bigger than your regular tarot card. It's more like an oracle card size to me. And the artwork on this deck. Now, the paper or the cardstock on this deck is really good, you guys. So it's not really as good as the Guardian of the Night tarot, but it's pretty good still. It's robust. It doesn't have that rose petal feeling. It's sort of like a little bit of a cardboard feeling, not in a bad sense. Do I say that? I mean, it's still nice cardstock. And when it comes to shuffling, it is sort of on the heavier side and it is on the thicker side. So if you have small fingers like I do, you might have to have extra care when you shuffle this deck, but at the end of the day, you will be able to handle it. When it comes to a spread with this deck, it also works pretty well. It's not the best, but it works pretty well. This is the Two of Water or the Two of Cups. And you guys, the wonderful, amazing thing about this deck is the artwork. Elder of Water. The printing is okay. It's not on the shiny side. It's sort of on the matte side. And these characters on this deck are absolutely gorgeous. The drawings of this deck are absolutely fantastic. So it's super artistic. It really takes you into a different world. There's so many things to look at in the card. They are borderless, so if you like borderless, that's a really wonderful thing. I do. It just has a small border here on the bottom, but that's just for the title of the card. And this is the Elder of Fire. Look how gorgeous that is, right? 10 of Fire. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. I love this one, the 10 of Air. And if you see that, she's nailed to the wall, right? There's blood coming out of her hands. Her wings have been cut off and they have been also nailed to the wall. There's the signature of whoever did it. Placed their hand there on the tree. And so there's petals here on the bottom to represent some sadness. It's really, really sad. But at the same time, she's not dead. And so she can manage to escape that and follow and hopefully continue what she was doing. This is the world. I love this card too. Just beautiful, you guys. This is 5 of Water or 5 of Cups. You know, that's that sort of regretful card. This is the Moon. Beautiful. 6 of Earth. Gorgeous, gorgeous deck, you guys. And this was also one of my biggest surprise, you guys, because I wasn't expecting it to be so enchanting. And am I glad that this deck is in my collection? Absolutely. I love this deck. Do I use this deck? Yes, I use this deck. And it's a fairies deck, you guys. I'm not using fairy decks that much, though I love the Paulina decks. And, you know, those are full of fairies. I connect to this deck more than I connect with a Paulina Faye deck. These are clearer. Printing is good on these decks, by the way. This is the Death card. It's like a death card I've never seen before. This is the Queen of Air. And it takes you into this beautiful world, fantasy fairy world. And you guys, as I said, I'm not really into fairies, but my God, this deck totally surprised me, and I use it, and I'm happy that it's in my collection, and I will keep using this deck, you guys. And with that being said, let me show you deck number 2. Deck number 2, you guys, the Medieval Oracle of the Beasts. Expensive deck. I have to start by saying that because I've gotten so many messages and so many responses from viewers saying, you know, Rob, they are really truly beautiful decks, but they find them a little bit on the expensive side and they find them overrated. However, I find that it is an investment, yes. But at the same time, you guys, for me, actually, it is a good investment. I love this deck. I have really found myself around this deck. It is a complex deck, and it's not a deck that I was able to sort of connect to immediately. Yes, I connected with this deck in many ways, but let me show you. This is the Medieval Oracle of the Beasts, and this is by Libra Moon Inc. And if you know Libra Moon Inc., you'll know that they make and put out really beautiful decks, especially this one or this edition. So it opens up like this. Look how gorgeous this box is, you guys, right? I mean, it doesn't get any more luxurious than this, really, if I can use that word. You guys, look at this book that it comes with. It is leather bound. This is the only book that I have that is actually gilded and comes with a leather bound. It is absolutely gorgeous. It gives you a picture of the card, and then it gives you the meaning of the card here. It gives you the keywords here, and then it gives you a little bit information about the card, and then the affirmation comes down here. And so that's really all there is to this book, you guys. It has nothing really else other than the picture of the card and the meanings. It doesn't really have an introduction or anything like that, but it is really a beautiful little book. And so for that, I give him an A+. Really, look at that cover, look at those golds, really beautiful. Libra Moon puts out really gorgeous decks, so you don't ever, or you can't go wrong when you order one of their when you order some of their decks. I have some of the other decks, and I can tell you that they're not all the same. And so, but this ones in particular are really, really beautiful. And so look at the back of this card. And you guys, these are sort of oracle size. So being that this is an oracle deck, right? This is, if you compare it to a borderless Rider-Waite. But you guys, this cardstock is absolutely one of my favorite cardstocks on earth. I could touch this card all day long. I really love the thickness of it. I love the texture of it. I love the printing on it. It is just absolutely perfect. There is no better card for me. Look at this gilding. It is gorgeous. There's a lot of cards here, you guys. I forgot how many, but there's over 80 something cards here. So holding this deck is going to be a little bit of a challenge. You're going to have to hold it from this side and from this side if you want to shuffle like I do. If you shuffle any other way, then that's perfect. But this is how I shuffle this deck, you guys. And so it shuffles really, really nice. Like I said, this cardstock gets just the highest score from me, really. Am I glad that this deck is in my collection? Absolutely. This is number 2 on the best decks that I've gotten this year. Obviously, I'm glad that this deck is in my collection. I love the artwork in it. It's a medieval deck, and so the artwork is really right up my alley. It's sort of like old, not sort of, it's old, and it's old looking, but it's really special, and the colors are really beautiful. The printing is really good on this deck. The images are really thought-provoking. This is the Rabbit Fertility Leap of Faith. And this is the Ram Take Charge of Your Life. That's a funny looking one, right? But it's a really great deck, you guys. It's just beautiful, amazing pictures. It's so classic, you know. This is just classic and elegant. You cannot go wrong with this deck. So I use this deck a lot to either begin my readings or end my readings. At the beginning of the reading, I'll have the seeker pull out 3 or 4 of these cards to just sort of let us into the reading. And or at the end of, I will also pull this deck, and or I will do a clarifier with this deck as well. So those are all pretty interesting ways that you can incorporate this deck into your readings. This is Ego, Freedom, Justice, Truth. Beautiful. And the colors, you guys, they're just so gorgeous. Really. Medieval Oracle of the Beasts, you guys. Beautiful. You guys, let me show you what deck number 1 is all about. Deck number 1, you guys, the Japaritze Tarot by Nino Japaritze. And you guys, this is deck number 1 because it is absolutely gorgeous. I don't know if you've seen this video or not. I made a full review of this video a couple of months ago. It's just a beautiful deck. It's by US Game Systems, and US Game Systems usually doesn't disappoint, right? Well, I can tell you that it certainly didn't disappoint with this deck. It is a beautiful deck. I love the presentation of this deck. The box opens up like this. It is a larger box. This is the book that it comes in with the deck, and it is gorgeous, you guys. It gives you a full picture of the card, and then it gives you a description of the card. So pause your device and read that if you're interested to see how that reads. And other than that, it gives you a couple of spreads and a brief introduction about the artist of this deck, but it is gorgeous, and this book looks really, really good, you guys. So for presentation, this deck gets really an A+. These are the cards, you guys. These cards are a bit oversized, you guys, which I totally don't mind. When I heard that this deck was bigger than your usual deck, I thought, wow, this is great. And that's one of the things that I really attracted me to this deck, that the cards were bigger than normal. You guys, this is the back of the card. They are reversible, as you can see. I find the backings to be beautiful and elegant, honestly. When it comes to cardstock, this is very run-of-the-mill US game systems cardstock. You guys, if you're familiar with US games, you'll probably recognize this cardstock very much so. It's not bad, it's not the best, but it's okay. It really doesn't matter, you guys. This is what the side of the deck looks like. They're not gilded, as you can see. So if you have shorter fingers like I do, then you may have to find a creative way to shuffle this deck, because it can be a little bit difficult to shuffle this deck, but at the end of the day, it's pretty good. And the cardstock is also pretty good for shuffling. When it comes to doing a spread, it just spreads wonderfully, you guys. And this deck, it is a work of art. Look at this deck, you guys. Look at some of these pictures. They are all pieces of artwork. I think they hung in Paris, and they give me sort of Dali style. They give me sort of Picasso style, but they're just gorgeous, you guys. There's so much to look at. There's so much to see. The printing is good. The colors are gorgeous. They're bright. They're just perfect. If you're an art lover, this is a deck that you're definitely going to want to get. And then on top of it, you guys, you get so much out of the pictures. There's so many symbolisms. There is really a lot to look at. This deck is just one of my biggest surprises this year. I am so happy that I got this deck in my... When it comes to presentation, when it comes to the card size, when it comes to the cardstock, when it comes to the artwork, when it comes to the price, when it comes to artistic and artful tarot decks, you guys, this guy has a 10+ from me, you guys. It meets every single requirement. It is absolutely wonderful, and the artwork is amazing. I love this Queen of Cups, by the way. And so tarot number one that I've gotten so far this first half of the year that I've been most impressed with is the Japardise Tarot by Nino Japardise. You guys, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Please like the video. Let me know that you like these decks. And by the way, you guys, there's a full review of this deck on the channel. Most of the decks that we've reviewed or seen today are already featured on the channel, you guys. So with that being said, you guys, thank you for watching. And as I always say, until the next time.